This is the Kali Mandir?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. In case you're in.
Yeah.
How's the online? You can pull either one of those out. It's
Okay.
no problem. They're both not necessary. They have to be on. What's this? At least 3 more people are coming, so it should get interesting. Oh my god, that's me. So share. Copy link, right?
Share. Yeah, just share post. Okay.
Do you have the other little one? For the podcast?
Yes, I have.
It's already set up?
No, it's
Oh.
not. That's the next. We have.
Okay. It's multi.
I have a lot.
So it makes things a little more complicated, but people like it if you watch.
Yeah,
or
more it
listen.
spreads. Yeah.
We're going to here maybe, or
And hopefully listen.
what's that?
And hopefully listen later.
Yes. Yeah, you're a podcaster. You listen to the
Yeah.
podcast. You can hook up to this maybe.
You also think there's.
Oh, look at that.
Maybe there's like a little. This had feet for some reason, but.
Could it? Look at that. That's so. Okay.
And that's recording. Okay.
Om Stapakaya Chadharmasya Sarva Dharma Sarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Mangalam Om Sarashiva Sar Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Devya Matricha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Brindevya Sarvalokaya Mangalam Om Sarashiva Samarambam Shankarachara Madhyamam Ashmarachara Prayantam Vande Gurum Paramparam Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Devo Param Brahman Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Gurave Namaha. There's also tea, I think, somewhere. Jaima, we have an intimate group today. Can you hand me this cup of nectar, also known as coffee? Thank you. Jaima, welcome.
Thank you. I'm gonna get some tea.
So we're doing here partially because this way we won't interrupt the guests coming to the temple.
Could you move forward a little bit?
For a little tiny bit. A little bit this way towards me. Yeah.
Thank you. You like some tea?
No, thank you.
Would you like some tea?
Here, you can bring it down so I can do it sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it, you can do it here, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So last week we read some verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada Muni speaking to Yudhisthira. Yudhisthira asked him this question. He asked him he asked instruction on Dharma. And one of the questions he asked specifically what is Sanatana Dharma and what is Varna Ashram Dharma. And so, we discussed last week a little bit that this has become common to say instead of describing the Indian Hindu religion as Hindu, we like to say, the original name is Sanatana Dharma. And we hear like, Hindu, the word Hindu is a foreign term that the people on the other side of the Sindhu River, and so the group of their beliefs, and that's not an improper thing to say. It is in fact a foreign word perhaps, but it's a word that's not inappropriate. I mean, Lord Chaitanya used this term in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Ramakrishna also used the term, it wasn't against it. But we like to use Sanatana Dharma and think, oh, this is the eternal religion. So what does it mean to be the eternal religion? We like to think, oh, our religion is eternal. Everybody else's religion is not eternal. So that's potentially a dangerous perspective, right? So Narada Muni describes what is meant by Sanatana Dharma compared to Varnashram Dharma. And usually the things that we consider aspects of Hinduism is actually, usually it's the spiritual culture of Varna Ashram Dharma. This is the... Yep. My lines just have... Catch. Okay. Everybody okay over there? Okay. Okay, no problem. Remember, there's only fierce goddesses with weapons there, so be careful. A little bit careful. Speaking of that, so the things we usually say, oh, if Sanatana Dharma is the word for Hinduism, what is Hinduism? So you start saying, well, like we have the duties and responsibilities and practices of the different varnas. This is different, the brahmanas, the kshatriyas, the vaishyas, the sudras. Then you have the duties and practices and behavior of the ashrams. This is the brahmacharis, the grihastas, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. So, but Yudhisthira asks two questions: what is Sanatana Dharma, and what is Varna Ashram? The badly translated is caste dharma and stages of life. So, meaning that they're two different things, right? So what he mean, what Narada Muni then begins to explain. He says, what is considered Sanatana Dharma? Sanatana meaning eternal or unchanging or constant. And we gave some definitions from Shankaracharya's Brahma Sutra introduction on what it meant, what the Sanatana means. That is not the same as Varnashram Dharma. It's not the same as most of the practices and specific beliefs and practices of Hinduism. Sanatana Dharma is described as, and I think he gives a list of 21 or 27. I don't have the Bhagavatam with me, that chapter, but it was started with ahimsa, satyam, brahmacharya, asteya, daya, dana, these general all-encompassing principles. And so this is compassion, self-inquiry, charity, non-violence, truthfulness. These are Sanatana. These are eternal principles, and they're meant for everybody in every situation and all conditions, irrespective of time, place, person. Right? And then he says, but then how to live those things specifically. Then we have the dharmas as students, we have dharmas as parents, dharmas as leaders, dharmas as followers, of dharmas of swamis and of brahmacharis and of teachers, and like everybody has their duties and responsibilities. But so in describing this, and then I quoted one verse from. Fortunately, I lost my last week's notes or 2 weeks ago's notes, and then I deleted last week 2 weeks ago's notes in my frenzy to clean the computer in a series of false renunciations. I got rid of something valuable. Often the case. Anyway, there's a beautiful verse. It's from the last section of the Vishnu Sahasranamam. I may remember some lines of it. It says that everyone says, universally people say that good behavior is essential. That is essential. And it says good behavior is based upon dharma. Dharma is based upon, so all the scriptures say good behavior is essential. Good behavior, sadacharya, it says actually just use acharya, means sadacharya, good behavior, is based on dharma. Dharma is based upon Veda. And Veda are scriptures, right? And Veda, something like this, and is based upon Achyuta, Vishnu, or the inconceivable Lord, the all-pervading, imperishable Lord. So even Dharma is based upon, so the reason to follow Dharma, the reason to follow ahimsa, satyam, asteya, brahmacharya, these different practices that are described as Sanatana Dharma, is to find the eternal satya, the eternal reality, the unchanging reality. And this is a big point in Tantra also, because in Tantra we hold that there's Shiva and Shakti, right? And so Sri Ramakrishna describes, he says, or Brahman and Shakti, or sometimes visualizes Shiva and Shakti. And you have the all-pervading, unchangeless timeless reality, and then you have that reality in as vibrating in manifestation. So yeah, so we say in that, we don't, so what is it? Stristi stiti vinashanam shakti bhute sanatani. It's a prayer for the Divine Mother, that you are the power that stisti stiti vinashanam shakti bhute. You are the power that creates stiti, strishti stiti. Stiti means to establish or preserve, and vinasha, and destroy. This means, that means actually it's a way of glorifying the Divine Mother as you are the power of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, or you are the power. But then it says, and you are Sanatani. Sanatani means unchanging. So you are that all that's changing and all that's unchanging. So this term Sanatana Dharma is that Sanatani. It's orientation towards discovering that which is unchanging, that which is beyond time. Not, we always say eternal. Eternal usually means like not everlasting, not living forever. It's living beyond time, or the reality beyond time. So we went last week, and I gave a long, almost 2 hours discussion on trying to, before I even ever got to my actual discussion topic. So in that list that Narada Muni gives of the principles of Sanatana Dharma, he describes, basically summarizing the yamas and niyamas, especially the yamas. And in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, he actually describes, when he just gives the list of the 5 yamas and the 5 niyamas. Then let me see if I can find it. It says, Jati Desha Kala Samya. So irrespective of jati, or family or social position, I guess, right? That birth and caste and social, like that. Desha, according to place, and kala, according to time, or circumstance. Samya, annavachaniya, sarvabhauma, mahavratam. These have to be followed. These are the great vow that's followed irrespective of time, place, and circumstance. Is it getting too warm? Is it okay? Here it's going to get. Okay, everybody? Okay, if you can open the window a little bit. I've never had more than 2 people in here at a time so far. I think only the opening kirtan we had 4 or 5 people. Yeah. The first time. So it was a new experiment. We'll see if the walls start bleeding or something. We're unexpected. So that's also by Patanjali is also describing, this is the definition of Sanatan, right? The Dharma that is, so according to Patanjali, the yamas are Sanatana. The niyamas are expansion on it. This list of 5 yamas, 5 niyamas, we'll read them. This is the famous list from Patanjali. There's other renditions, right? In the Sharada Tilaka Tantra, a very important text. Unfortunately, not well translated so far. There's no good translation of the Sharada Tilaka Tantra. You have it badly translated.
I had it, but it was in Sanskrit.
Yeah. So I have a translation, not great. Somebody needs to. It'd be a lifetime work. It's not an easy work to translate. But anyways, there it gives a list of 10 yamas and 10 niyamas. It expands and fleshes it out. That same list is given in the Devi Bhagavatam, the Devi Gita. Right, so the Sharada Tilaka Tantra and Devi Gita, these are tantric texts, Shakti texts. So and so it's a little more sadhana oriented, right? So it describes, it unfolds, and we'll read that list also. Very interesting. Anyway, so I want to read a little bit from the Yoga Sutra, from verse 28, I think, of the second book is sadhana. I forget the name of the 3 of the 4 chapters. The second chapter, whatever the second chapter is. Forgive me. It says, verse 20, I won't read the Sanskrit here. Through practice of these limbs of yoga, impurity is overcome in wisdom, and an enduring capacity to make distinctions are achieved. So it's interesting. So this is, we spent a lot of time last week describing that according to the Shastra, according to our Guruji also, Swami Bhajanananda, he says again and again that the only purpose of sadhana is, anybody remember? You were here? Yeah. Okay, next. Up here. Okay. I have a bigger stick. I can still reach you. Right, is mana shuddhi. Right, the only purpose of sadhana is to purify the mind. And we gave this Ramakrishna's example of like purifying a magnet, right, or a needle. right? A needle's naturally drawn. Ramakrishna said a needle's naturally drawn to the magnet, and so if it's not drawn to the magnet, we described there's only a few reasons. It's actually it's its nature to be drawn to the magnet. If it's not, it's for a couple of reasons. One is that it's not close and therefore not feeling the pull, right? One is that it's you mentioned it's turned around and therefore you have like negative poles and things like that. There's something to that. I thought of that one. And then the one that Sri Ramakrishna describes is that it's covered in mud, encased in mud, and therefore, even though it's being pulled, it doesn't seem to move. So the fact that we're not rushing, full of longing and devotion and aspiration, agony and separation from God, which all the saints exhibit. Sri Ramakrishna said that's the yoga of this age, the age of the yoga of longing. No other thing, nothing else is actually necessary than longing. If we're not, it's not because we're not good. The soul's nature is to be drawn to God. It means that our mind has been covered by dust or by mud, right? So therefore sadhana becomes to clean the mind. And so that's, he says, Ashuddha Kyasha Jana Diptir. By cleaning the mind, then the soul begins, the light of the soul just shines naturally, right? So the purpose of the yamas, the purpose of the niyama, actually the purpose of the 9 limbs are, I'm adding my own limbs, the eight limbs of Patanjali's famous. This is one sentence. People are gonna turn off the camera. The 9 limbs of Patanjali. Okay, next. Let's see what else is on Facebook right now. That was a close one. You lose your cred easy in this modern age. So everybody here knows about the Eightfold Path. I don't have to overly describe. And for many years, even when I used to give classes at UCI in the yoga department, it was I used to also describe it as like I always visualized it, and it's not wrong, as like stages of a ladder. You do one thing, and then you move to the next thing, and you do the next thing, right? And that's not wrong, but it's not exactly right either. Right, because limbs, it's limbs, like I have limbs. These are called angas, right? Kali is described as chaturanga. She has 4 limbs, right? So she has 4 arms, right? So we have various aspects of ourselves, and if you develop them, you develop all of them, right? You don't. Of course, you may at different times give focus on it's like you gotta, what do you work out first? You work on your arms, you work on your legs, like that, and you develop everything. So the eight limbs are all part of yoga, all part of sadhana. They all develop organically, right? But still, the idea of a ladder is still not incorrect, right? Because the yamas, niyamas, they're mentioned first, not because they're at the top, because you go from the bottom up in a certain, just like so. The yamas niyamas are considered like your legs or your feet, or to use the analogy of a building we used last week or 2 weeks ago, is that of a foundation, right? There's a book that the Kauai Ashram puts out, like the yamas niyamas, the yoga's forgotten foundation, or something like that. They use that same term, right? It's a forgotten foundation. So if you build a building without a foundation, as I've said many times, you build an accident. The building will definitely fall, right? So it does make sense. And samadhi is not the first step. It's considered the final step, right? So it's still not wrong to consider it as developing, but they're all developed simultaneously. So it's not like you have to be a master at Yama before you can try asana, before you sit properly. But sitting itself is part of the process of developing Yama and Niyama. Yama, Niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadayo, stavangani, something like that. The limbs of the Eightfold Path are as follows, and this is Yama, Niyama, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. These are the 8 limbs. So the first, now it defines Yama, which Narada says is the basis of Sanatana Dharma. So you have to think this is the foundational parts of religion. Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. Like I right? No, I didn't get it right. Aparigraha. Thank you. Yamaha. Right. So it's defining what is Yama. So ahimsa. So these are simple things, but they're actually not that simple. Obviously, it's simple to say, not easy to practice. Ahimsa means non-violence. Ahimsa, not harming. And this is negatively described. Actually, most of these are negatively described. It's like not stealing or not coveting and not Yama. ¿Puedes sentar aquí? Estamos. Sí, ok. Yeah, aquí está bien. Sí, sorry. You're still okay back there? Okay, okay. Okay. Ahimsa, non-violence. The positive side of non-violence is another way of saying love, right? But we'll go into that. Satya means truth. Asteya. Asteya means, actually, we get that steya and steal is the same word, right? Developed, so not stealing, right? So it's not that complicated. Asteya, where are we? Aparigraha. Thank you. My tongue is not at its best today. This means non-attachment or not covetousness. Coving, you know what I mean. And then brahmacharya. So this ahimsa is always listed first, and in the Buddhist tradition and in the Jain tradition, they have this line: ahimsa parama dharma. Ahimsa is the foremost or the greatest or the topmost dharma, or the most important aspect of religion. And we may have mentioned this last time also that I've read legitimate people criticizing it. Oh, it's not that important in Hinduism. This is a borrowed idea from Buddhism and Jainism. That's a very common saying, right? Because they're the ones that say ahimsa parama dharma. It doesn't say so in Hinduism, but actually it does say so in Hinduism. 27 times in the Mahabharata. There's a list there. Not only does it say ahimsa is the greatest religion, it is the greatest austerity, the greatest charity, the greatest rule, the greatest obedience, the greatest. It lists like ahimsa parama this, ahimsa parama this, right? So it is, and Mahabharata is not a gentle text, right? It's a book about an ancient war, right? So it's still describing. Well, while it's true that Hinduism is not there's a place for an understood place of necessary violence, perhaps, right? But ahimsa is considered the topmost principle. And then after ahimsa is satya. Satya means truthfulness or honesty. And some would, but it's very important to list ahimsa, satya, or satyam. The people sometimes challenge, what if, and then you give the classic story, what if, you're sitting under a tree and you see somebody run by and run up a tree to hide, right? And then you see somebody else, a bunch of thieves and with weapons come looking. Have you seen that? The guy, I'm looking for this guy to kill him, right? Have you seen him? What do you say? Right? So no, I'm a yogi and I have to follow Satya. So yeah, he's in a tree. Right? So obviously, this is a classical, it's in the text, right, in the commentaries, as to flesh out the discussions that people use on this. That's a very famous example. So what would we do? So the answer is, it says ahimsa satya. It doesn't say satyam ahimsa. Right? Ahimsa is a higher principle in this particular case. It doesn't mean we should constantly lie in order to do good and not hurt people. But if hurting, but it's not an excuse to lie, right? But the higher principle, the higher truth, you can look somebody in the face. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen anybody. Right? Ahimsa satyam. So within this list, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. My tongue will do it. Swami Shivananda, again and again, and our Guruji also used to give emphasis to three, to constantly, we mentioned this a little bit, this is what I wanted to talk about last week. He says, ahimsa, satyam, brahmacharya. These are the three that has to be, these are the yogi's continuous meditation, continuous practice. But we'll go back. So Yama, ahimsa. There's a verse also in the Tantrasara, tantric text is describing it has the tantric aspect of Manasa Puja. We do this every day in puja. Maybe not every day on Amavashas we'll do this. You'll see when we chant a mantra describing the divine Kali's form, and we put a flower on our head. You probably have seen this, right? And we're meditating, and we sometimes, trying to balance the flower with like ahimsa parama pushpam push. You try to read this one without knocking down the flower. Sometimes not. Last Amavasya was unsuccessful. My flower fell, right? But the idea is that it's describing a long meditation, a form of mental worship, right? And it's describing that within the heart there's an infinite ocean of consciousness, of Amrita. Within that, there's a wish-fulfilling island of wish-fulfilling gems. On top of that, there's a kalpataru tree. Underneath that tree, you meditate upon this. You see Mother Kali sitting. You offer then your heart as a lotus. You offer the water dripping from the 1,000-petal lotus as to wash the feet. That same water is used to rinse her mouth and to bathe her. You offer the fragrance of the earth as flower. The mind, as fragrance, you offer the mind as flowers, the pranas as incense, the agni tattvam, the principle of light, as lamp. It goes like this. It's a very deep meditation. You're offering all the very structures of what you offer. In Puja, you see we offer an umbrella. The umbrella is a 1,000-petal lotus. The fan is the wind element. Everything like this. And then it describes that at the end we also do pushpanjali. After puja, you see, we also offer lots of flowers. So it describes what are the pushpanjali. And the flower of non-attachment, the flowers of self-control, the flowers of freedom from jealousy, the flower of freedom from avarice, the flower of like that. And then describe first, and then it says these are the 10 flowers. And then it gives another list. If I remember, ahimsa parama pushpam Indriya graha. So at first it says the supreme flower. These are the real flowers. The supreme flower of ahimsa parama pushpam. Again, parama dharma. Here, the supreme flower. The real offering is that of nonviolence. Ahimsa parama pushpam indriya graha, and the flower of control of the senses. Jnana pushpam. What is it? Daya pushpam. When I'm doing it, I know it. You are the flower of compassion, the flower of forgiveness, kshama pushpam, and the fire of the flower of knowledge, right? Right. These are, and then it describes these are the 15 flowers that are made, and it says they're made of bhava, right? This is a real. So these are our inner feeling, right? The flowers we're offering so the real flower. We can do puja. We can offer. Before coming in, I decorated the shrine with beautiful flowers, so you can see Ma and Shiva decorated nicely, right? But actually, these are. I went outside and cut and trimmed poor rose bush. I had minding his own business there, trying to attract bees. And the Swami comes, the non-violent Swami comes with a pair of scissors and cuts them in order. So this is not the highest flower. They're beautiful flowers, and it's nice to do puja with flowers. The real puja is the flower of non-violence, the flower of forgiveness, flower of compassion, fire of knowledge, flower. I keep saying fire. The flower of control of the senses. So ahimsa. We'll go back. Ahimsa, satya, truth. There is so truth also is. Swami Shivananda was reading this morning. Just so happened. He says. A worldly man, a moralist, and a spiritual man have different conceptions of truth. So this is his three categories. A spiritualist, a worldly person, a materialistic person, and a moralist. What's considered truth, right? To a worldly person, truth is it's based upon benefit. Right. What do you say? What do you don't say? You can see like if you have to go to a lawyer, be very careful. Don't lie, but be very careful what you say. Right. You must make sure it benefits you. Right. So the truth becomes what benefits you. Right. That's one standard. To a moralist, ethicist, or whatever that would be. What's the like the example of the person hiding in a tree? Like what the truth is. What does the maximum benefit, right? But to a spiritual person, according to Swami Shivananda, the truth is has neither one. Truth is the foundation of everything. It's Brahman, right? And that is what's that one line from the Upanishads? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Is that right? Right. That the Brahman is truth, knowledge, and infinite truth and knowledge, and unending. That's that definition in the Upanishad of Brahman. Brahman is Jnanam, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. I think that's right. Right. I have 4 or 5 of these verses in my head. Mom. So a yogis or a Sanatanist adherence to truth is not just because it's morally correct, right? Not that it's good for us, although it is morally correct and it is good for us. But what's good for us changes, right? Sometimes saying one thing is good, sometimes saying the opposite thing is good, right? And what's and our sense of morality changes, right? One thing is good in some situation, not good in another situation. But the truth, which Shankaracharya establishes, that which is unchanging, unborn, undying, can't be, all the things we discussed last time, that's a foundation. And so Sri Ramakrishna said, if you give up truth, then we're searching for truth. Swami Bhajanananda, one great Kriya yogi in Dehradun, right? Very nice. He says, somebody asked him, I've seen this happen in front of me, but I remember from a book. He was very clever. And somebody asked, so Swamiji, what should be the goal of a seeker of truth? Right. And so he said, truth. Right. It's like a real simple, like, and then he said, I've always believed that every question has within it the answer. Right. So somebody in our groups, what should be the, so anyways, like we answered, he had to be careful not to hurt the person. It was not a stupid question, but so if our goal is to seek truth, we have to. Truth is everything. So Sri Ramakrishna said, actually, it's become almost a mania for him, right? If he said something, he had to do. He was so established in truth, he couldn't. If he said, "Oh, I'll visit you on Tuesday," and at 11:49, he'd wake up. Oh my God, I didn't visit, and he'd run to the person, he'd open somebody's gate and step into their house and go back home and go to sleep. Because the idea that he didn't, if he said he was going to do something, it became extreme. He says we shouldn't be extreme, but we should be extreme, right? We shouldn't deviate from truth. And what is that, in the most common puja? If I've ever been to your house for puja, we probably did Satyanarayana puja. That's the most common, right? Where it says, and all those stories, and that whole puja, and the whole vrat, and the Satyanarayana Katha, is all about somebody who says they're going to do something and then does it, right? And the benefit. And then somebody who says they're going to do something and then doesn't do it, not benefit. It's like, because you're brave. And he says, in Kali Yuga, I am Satya. It's a very important part. He says, I'm known in different yugas by different names, and in Kali Yuga, I am known as Satya Narayan. This is in Padma Purana. Important. I'm losing my asana here. Slipping. Govinda. Satya Ahimsa Asteya Brahma. What is it? Satya Ahimsa Ashteya. These are, I don't have to. Sri Ramakrishna described as we should see other people's property as filth, right? Not that but I mean that you shouldn't desire somebody else's property. Very easy principle to understand, but also what is considered actually like sneaking into somebody's house and stealing something. That's obviously stealing. That's not good. And it happens more than we think. If you see the even here in our little town Laguna, if we see the Stewed News, you get to see almost every day. What bank has been robbed in Laguna, who's been held up by knife point. It's like little Laguna. You wouldn't think it's actually quite bad. Quite bad. But stealing is not just stealing. What's the definition of stealing? Stealing is taking. Well, the definition of stealing is taking something that's not yours, or stealing is taking something you didn't earn. That's another, by extension, right? And so in the Gita, there's a very interesting, the third chapter of the Gita. So it describes the cycle of yeah, it's getting warm. It's good to know. Yep, you pull the hook towards you. Yeah. simultaneously. There it is. Thank you. You pull. I'm about to describe. You pull the thing towards you. My goodness. All right. So it describes the process of our interdependent life, right? We're in the old way of looking at things. We're dependent upon the devas and the rishis, right? We get the rains and we get nature from the devas, right? And the devas get their nourishment from our sacrifice, right? We get knowledge from the rishis. We pay the rishis by practicing and spreading their knowledge. We get our bodies from our parents and family, so we pay by obedience and service of our family and parents and lineage. We get so we get benefit like this, and so Krishna says that there's an ancient cycle, right? He says that this sacrifice, the principle of sacrifice, of that we get and we also give. This is part of the give and take of society. We do it in our society, but it is a cosmic thing. And then it says, cherished by yajna the deva shall bestow on you the enjoyments of your desire. A thief verily is he who enjoys what is given to them without returning them anything. Right, so if you eat something without paying for it, then you're a thief, right? So it says, but if you pay for it, so that's a thing. And then the next line says, the good who eat the remains of yajna are freed from sin, but the sinful ones who cook food only for themselves verily eat sin. These two verses are kind of, these two verses from the Gita, they're kind of famous, right? And they usually used to describe why we should offer prasadam. We offer food to the devas and we take the prasad, right? And to not do that, then we're eating sin and we're thieves, right? But it's a bigger thing because this is based upon what they call panchayagya dharma. We have obligation to five categories of obligation. We have to our parent, like I mentioned, to our parents, to our ancestors and parents. It's called Pitra Yagya. Deva Yagya, offering to the gods who give us our food and rain and nourishment like this. Rishis to the other people, Nara, and Bhuta to animals and the like. Because if there's no, it's like when bees die, society collapses. If ants die, we all die. We're very interconnected. And so since we're getting from everybody, it's considered dharma. Part of dharma is to give back. What we have the leftover from that is considered prasad. Not that we offer a plate of food, and we do this is symbolic. We offer a plate of food in front to Ma, and then we take that as prasad. But like the Gita says, you feed the devas, you feed the ancestors, you feed your parents, you feed society, you feed the poor, you feed animals and insects and bugs, right? After you've done that, what's left that you can enjoy, that's yours, that's prasad. That's the remnant of sacrifice, not just what comes off the plate, right? And if to not do that is, according to the Gita, then you're stealing. And not only stealing, what you eat is a plate of, these are strong language, a plate of sin, right? Srila Prabhupada has a very nice line. It says, and how can one be happy if one is both a sinner and a thief? Factually, it is not possible. That's one of my favorite lines. I remember that when I was 16. It's a big line. It's like, how can one be happy? How can one be happy if one is both a sinner and a thief? So his point is you can practice by offering, right? But this is, so theft is not just sneaking in somebody's house or holding somebody up, is taking what we didn't, not paying for what we get, and taking more than. So that goes to the next one, appa vigraha. Not doing that right. Let me look at it. Aparigraha. I'm thinking aparigraha. Means to be attached, to want more than you need, and so you can see how these are deeply connected, right? So what is a way of aparigraha? It's just simple, being satisfied with what you have, right? What's immediately, because actually what we need is we discussed like one line when we were talking about Vamana, right? When King Bali offers Vamana the three worlds, ask anything. This is all I wanted, 3 paces of land measured by my own little tiny feet. He goes, no, don't be silly, right? I'm the king, I give you the whole universe. Why only 3 things of land? Of course, he does take the whole universe as his steps. We know the famous story, right? But still, I think this is, I always call them underlined verses, where you have like, these are like the shining verses of each section. And he says, somebody who's not satisfied with 3 steps of land will not be satisfied with the 3 worlds. right? That's the point, right? And then he takes the two steps of land takes up the three worlds, right? To prove his point. But what are the three steps? Three steps of land. This is 3 steps. My little bed here. This is how far it takes to lay down, right? 3 steps of land is what you need to lay down. I mean, you're not living the 3. You're creating a 3 steps of land house now, right? Because your little house, right? Or these little coutiers. We need actually very little space to lay down, right? And then how much food do we need? We need. Well, I need this much, but I want this much. But we need this much. I'm getting like this more and more, but we actually need a handful of food, right? Right. You can only drive 1 car at a time, right? So it's like so what we need. So we can get. I mean, we have karmas also. I mean, people work and they earn and they get more. They get very nice things, perhaps. And the 3 steps is not a grass mat, but a big. I go to houses and you see some of the beds are this high. It's really quite something. Indian houses especially. For a rich Indian house, the beds are always this high. You have to have a little ladder to get up to. It's like, wow, I'm too scared to fall off. It's like I joke that I sleep on the floor because I can't fall off the floor. It's safer this way, right? And I can fall off the floor is a problem. I'm not in. But still, even if it's this big, you only need a tiny bit of space, right? Even if it's very nice quality food, you only need a little bit of food, right? So I think this is the gist of it, is being satisfied with what you need, not, what is it in the, what is that, the Nectar of Instruction, what's that, Upadeshamrita, one of the Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami. There's a small text, 11 verses or 12 verses. But it says that, but it also describes as not to over endeavor. One of the drawbacks of spirit, one of the obstacles of spiritual life is to over endeavor for things that are difficult to attain. Not that we shouldn't work hard to get our, satisfy our desires and help our family, that's the thing. But you work so hard to get something you don't need. Right? The thing. Work hard to get something you need. That's different. But you work hard to get something you don't need. Right, and I've told the story, but this is it. I was thinking of this verse many years ago. Right, we've been struggling with these ideas for a long time, and we were at Ambikananda's family's house, right, and they have a big collection of antiques, right. That's a family business that his family was in, and there's this very nice Tiffany type of, what they call Tiffany lamps, right? And he probably got it secondhand. I mean, he didn't get it, but I was just thinking, I used that was my prop to illustrate my point. At a young age, right? 17 years old or something, right? Right. We're all fired up at that time, more than now, I think. He says that how much? How much did the Tiffany lamp cost? Yeah.
Oh,
it was a real one.
The real one would be several thousand.
So $7,000, right? So that's, it's a beautiful lamp. Yeah. It's probably worth several $1,000s. Not that it's not worth that. It's a gorgeous piece of work, right?
Well, then it will be even more.
Okay. let's say $7,000. So I was working. I'm not supposed to talk about my past life as a sannyasi, but I used to work at a record store. That was my big job at $8 an hour, 5 days a week, 5 hours, 3 days a week. It was pretty good. I had pretty good work, pretty good. Maybe it was $6 an hour. I forget. It was a long time ago. I remember it bigger. It was enough. But I was just thinking. So how many hours of work would it take for me to have a timpani lamp? Right, it's like so many 100. I mean, how many years? 6. Yeah, it was months and months and months of work to get something, and wow, all this work, and I finally got my beautiful timpani lamp that I don't need. Right, it's like it's one thing. I mean, maybe my paycheck is higher, and and I can get it fairly simply. I'm not against people having timpani lamps, but for me, it would have been over-endeavoring for something difficult to achieve, right? Better, I could use that money, and what I did instead, I used the money to buy books and albums and tickets for India. That was a more appropriate use for a young person's, young aspirant, complete works of Vivekananda. And this book I got from that paycheck. I remember I got this book so many years ago at the Yoga Center in Costa Mesa. $12 was expensive there, but $12 I remember. But $12 was two hours of work, right? I looked at everything. It's like, that's 2 hours of work. This is 4 hours of work. This is half hour's work, But I was conscious of this verse: over endeavor for things that are difficult to achieve. Doesn't mean be lazy. We should endeavor, but not for things you don't need, right? I think that's a lot of this, in my interpretation of this aparigraha. Aparigraha. I keep forgetting to put the R in. We have to think of what it means. Parigraha. Parigraha. Here, the pari in this sense means like in many places or a large amount, and graha means taking. Means not taking large amounts. So if you and like I pull the word, I know how the words pull apart because my tongue doesn't do it, right? So jati desh. So showing respect to others without regard to social. Every situation, by person, by place, by time, these should be followed at every time. This is called Mahavrata. This is the great vow. So, I forgot, and Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means, the simple meaning means celibacy, right? Brahmacharya, the word means the action that leads to Brahman, or walking or acting in Brahman, right? But celibacy does not mean just celibacy. Of course, Brahmacharya means celibacy, right? But Brahmacharya also means purity. Right, and so when one gets married, that's also a type of brahmacharya, because what is one? It's also tapasya. What are you giving up? You're giving promiscuity up, right? So therefore it's a vow of fidelity, and that's also considered a type of brahmacharya, right? And so like a young brahmachari student in the old traditional way, the expectation of brahmacharya is one thing. As a household, it's going to be different, right? Non-violence is a universal principle, but as a sannyasi, maybe one way. Right, as a soldier, it may be different, right? But both are held to brahmacharya. But it's still, it's going to be. You have to understand it in its proper way. So we quoted last week a verse from Tulsidas, right? It's Sri Ramakrishna would quote. He says, if Sri Ramakrishna would quote it all the time. He says, if speaking only the truth is satya, speaking the truth and seeing other man's wives, in other words, you can convert it, as mother, and that means purely, if that doesn't get you God, then Tulsi is a liar. Let the world know Tulsi Das is a liar. You can throw his books away. Right? So he based his whole reputation on this whole thing. Is basically satya. He based it on satya and brahmacharya. And brahmacharya was not, he himself was married, complicated, his life, he had a complicated married life, but it's looking at other man's wives, right, or other women's husbands, or however you want to, and now we can mix it up even more in modern day, right, right, if you don't, by seeing them and behaving and reacting and engaging them purely, if that doesn't get you God, nothing will get you God. That's basically what he's saying, right? And it's a very big statement. And Sri Ramakrishna, by quoting it continuously, that means this is Sri Ramakrishna's bold declaration, right? You stick to truth and you see people purely. You could. Sometimes he called it tamasic bhakti, right? He says, and you can actually, at the end, you can challenge God. He says, come, I want to slap you in the face. Come, in front of me. You're a liar. You can tell God's a liar too, right? The scriptures, you say that this is sufficient for me to find God. And if I don't find God, then I'm gonna declare to everybody that God's a liar, right? It's a very big thing, but people can't make this claim because most people haven't done these two things, right? We'll go back to these. Then the niyama. Right, Saucha, Santosha, Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishvara, Prani, Dana, Niyamaha. Right, so Saucha means cleanliness or purity again. Santosha means contentment, it means satisfied. Tapasya means austerity. Austerity is interesting because austerity means, of course, it means even like actually all of these are yamas, niyamas are tapasya. Right, to do any of the things are tapasya, right? It means self-control, right? Self-control is not easy, but if you do self-control, tapas also means heat, right? If you do self-control, you get Yama. I don't know how we're gonna come a little closer. Come. We're just finishing. This is the final. We'll see if what you built will fall apart down. The walls are gonna fall out. Yama.
You're okay here.
Are we okay?
You can see
Yeah, okay. Sorry, we won't go too long.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, no interruption. What time is it? I'm just watching.
6:01.
6. Okay, we'll finish in 10 minutes. Tapaha. So when you do self-control, there is something that happens. It's called tapas means austerity. Tapas also means heat, right? So there's a fire. We call it the fire of tapasya. You know, when you do something, you every time you can't say that you shouldn't be like, oh, I don't do anything, I have to resist everything. Not like that. But even you can practice a little bit. You know, I want something, but I decide not. I want to eat something. I'm not going to eat that thing. Small thing. Not easy. Like try to not eat something you like to eat. You know, try to drink or try to eat something you don't like to eat. That's even bigger tapasya. Or talk to somebody you don't like, or not, or not to talk to somebody you do like, or whatever the situation is, right? But you know that little action, that little action creates something, right? It gives you strength, but that strength it creates heat, and that heat is a secret of yoga, right? We put pictures of yogis up. Why? They're tapasis. They have power. They have realization. Their power came from their austerity, right? We don't. Our culture does not respect austerity, and therefore the yamas and niyamas are not practiced. But the yamas, what should be our austerity? I mean, we can. Okay, everybody, put your hand up and I'll put it down. 12 years, I'll tell you to put your hand. I'll call on you in 12 years. You, what do you want, right? You know, so you can do something like that. That's a powerful austerity. It's probably not suggested for most people, right? Or you can, but we don't have, maybe that's not the best austerity for most people. That's for a select few of certain lineages, right? But these austerities are not complicated, but they're not easy, right? So tapasya. Although tapasya is listed as a separate thing, all these things are tapasya, right? And then swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means self-study. It usually means it's translated as scripture study. So we study, like we're reading today, this class is Swadhyaya. We're studying the scripture. We can read the Bhagavad Gita, we can read the Yoga Sutra, we can read the Upanishads, read the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and the yogis and saints and the lives of the mystics. Very, very good. But it's called Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means self-study. Right? So when you're reading the scripture, like when you're reading, like it's not what Krishna said to Arjuna. That's important, right? It's important, but what is it? How does it apply to me? Not even how does it apply? What does it reveal about me? Right? It's meant to be introspection, right? And Swadhyaya also, the commentators on the Yoga Sutta say Swadhyaya is also not only it's self-study and the study of the scripture and the recitation of texts, and by extension the recitation of mantras. So japa is also considered Swadhyaya. So you can read all the verses, or you can say one verse. We can chant the Vedas, or you can chant your mantra, right? It's the same type of study, right? So the daily recitation, meditation of the mantra, and the recitation and study of the scriptures. But all the mantra itself, as well as the text, are meant to be self-study, so contemplation, investigation, swadhyaya, and then Ishvara, pranidhana, right? Pranidhana, right? And this is means offering one's life, one's soul to Ishvara, to God. So this is the higher thing. So that's listed as a separate thing, but that's the higher thing, right? So you could say this is so Ishvara pranidhana, and here in the very thing, this is in a certain sense that's, you could say in that sense perfectly, that's itself samadhi. We don't need to do the other. So even we practice towards it. It's not just, that's not just yoga. It's a whole life of surrendering oneself to God. I read even here actually, I downloaded this. I couldn't find my text, so I just downloaded these verses, and it translates like, that's interesting. It's like accepting your fate automatically. That's Ishvara Pranam. That's an interesting. That's something. That's also like we surrender whatever God wants. But I don't think just listening to this, like just accept your fate. That's it's giving yourself completely, giving your whole self to God. Ishvara Pranidhana. This is itself considered Niyama. Each one of these, Santosh, Tapas, Saucha, Brahmacharya, Ahimsa, has so many levels of interpretation. Like our Guruji, Swami Bhajanananda, he says, so when you, I don't speak on Yoga Sutra, it's not my specialty, but if you ever speak on this, not today, so I have to obey, and you remember it. He says, when you speak on this verse, it was 8 years ago he told me this, right? Say this. So I'm going to say this. Very good. Right? Because we can explain it differently. Like a Vedanta explains it one way, right? A Tantric explains it one way. A yogi explains it, but a Hatha yogi, his specialty is very advanced in that particular tradition. Also explain it. So Saucha means a clean body. Well, we all said, oh, it means a clean mind, means a clean heart, clean intentions, clean aspirations. All this is Saucha, but also it means clean intestines. Right, so you could. It also means washing your nasal passages and sticking all kinds of. We're expert at those unpleasant things. If you ever want to learn, I got a bag of things to stick up your nose in my drawer there. So far, after all these years, Ananda has requested them. He's the only person who wants to know any of these things. Even I'm scared of him now, but. That's also, but even that's a type of saucha, right? What level of saucha? Every yogi will have their things that they consider saucha. So generally, we have to be clean in a clean environment, but more important than external clean is internal cleanliness. But it's also true that we follow external cleanliness in order to elicit internal cleanliness, right? And if one is internally clean, the environment tends to be clean, but not always. Sometimes they're completely unrelated. Right, you can have there's Avadhut saints that their inside is 100% clean, but they don't bathe. They don't, it's like who knows what condition they're in, right? They're not there. You can't be judging. Oh, you're dirty. You didn't wash your clothes. This is a break of saucha. I know. You're not really. The thing is, or we can say you spent your whole day serving Ma's garden, therefore you're clean, right? This is very, that's a clean intention. Right, it may be muddy, but you can be clean, right? So saucha, all these things are great. So, again, after an hour of discussing, my point from last week, which I never got to mention, it's my problem. I talk too much. Is this? Swami Shivananda mentions also. Swami Chidananda heard him speak these way also. He says exactly to follow the yamas and niyamas, to follow these are just like we want to do something. What's the details of our spirit? Independent. The guru gives certain practices that we have to do. If he gives a mantra, you say the mantra. If he does a meditation, we do the meditation. If he does the puja, we do the puja. We do whatever the details are. But it's not just what is the lifestyle that supports it. What's the sadhana. The yamas niyamas support the sadhana, and the sadhana strengthens our ability to purify in all these different stages to follow. But what are we supposed to, besides our practice? What else are we supposed? How are we supposed to interact? How are we supposed to behave with each other? How are we supposed to treat ourselves? How to treat others? How do we work? Right. That is these other details. Right. So this is it's a very, so he says that they're so connected. Each one of them is everything, right? Like satya is ahimsa, right? Because ahimsa is the truth, right? Brahmacharya, to follow brahmacharya, you have to is ahimsa. That means you don't mistreat anybody. You don't misuse anybody's body, including your own, right? That's a very high ahimsa. Right, or to speak, or to hurt somebody is a great, or to lie to somebody is very harmful, right? Or to lose your own, like tapasya, right? To lose your own, that also, what is it like? I'm a Swami, right? A lot of people look to me and expect me like that. All of it comes out, oh my God, Swami, have you found out about? And then like, if I break tapasya, right? It's also a break of satya, and a break of and ahimsa. How many people I can hurt? Right, it's like you see they're all, if I break brahmacharya, I break ahimsa and satya. Right, so I mean they're all so integrally connected, right? And so Swami Chidananda says you have to bring so much attention, because every thought, every word, every action these are the details of our lives, right? You cannot, every word in thought, word, and each one of these is done in thought, word, and deed, right? So even like we sit here, how do we sit? Right? Which order do we sit? How do we dress? how to, all these little details. They seem they're maybe not so important, but they're so important. They're the way. They're the details of our. This is how we live our life, how we spiritualize our life. And it's kind of a corny thing to say, but somebody told me this is that just like instant, you add water and mix, and you make like instant something, right? Like add water and mashed potatoes, you get instant mashed potatoes. So how do you get instant yoga? You add awareness to anything and mix, right? A little corny, but it's true, right? You bring attention to anything, it becomes yoga, right? Attention to our words and to our actions and into our posts, like, or our clicks, or whatever it is, or whatever, every detail of our lives, right? Nowadays, before this talk 10 years ago would just be about how you treat each other. Now it's what you post and read, right? It's a whole nother level of interaction, right? Or lack of interaction, I don't know. So, let me read one thing real quick. Here's an example of this. I didn't underline it, but it's the same. The Swami Shivananda point I was reading this morning is that he's establishing that ahimsa. If you look at Satyam is nonviolence. If you look at nonviolence is brahmacharya. If you look at brahmacharya is tapasya and truth. He's establishing. They're long. Swami Shivananda style of writing. But you need to underline these things. It's a matter of bringing attention. So Usha, the reason we're trying to unpack this topic a little bit is because we see, Usha asked me to discuss these things, and you see in our newsletters, there's like little things that Usha usually writes. Very often they've been kind of focused the last 2-3 years almost, kind of bringing up these points a little bit, because without yamas and niyamas, there's no wisdom. Without yamas and niyamas is very dangerous. It's not wisdom. Knowledge without, that's a better way to think. Knowledge without yama and niyama is very dangerous. And you see, it's people who have some knowledge, right? Some ability, some knowledge, some prestige like that, but they don't have these principles, right? And that's what it's dramatically on the political scene, right? That's we're seeing all over the world, including here, right? That's where it's ridiculously dramatic, right? But it's true in religious scene, and at work, and amongst everything is just off. It's like what happened, right? One way to answer is that, like, this isn't one. It's not an arbitrary list. This is an ancient list, right? But we can make our own list of something like this. There's every religion has some core, have some, like in Buddhism, there's the precepts, right? And they're more or less the same as abstaining from sexual misconduct, it's brahmacharya, abstaining from stealing, abstaining from lying, abstaining from killing, that's ahimsa, right? Abstaining from intoxication, right? That's an interesting one, because actually somebody recently wrote me, maybe they're watching actually, very nice devotee of Swami Bhajanananda, about this list. It says, where does intoxication come in? Right, none of these lists say you shouldn't. In Buddhism, it's listed, no intoxication, or abstaining from intoxication is one of the principles. And in Pure Land Buddhists, you'll see, if you ever see, they'll have like 5 burns, where they take the vow of the 5 precepts, and they say with a lit incense stick they burn themselves, and then the monks and nuns, they'll do another 5, because then there's 10 priests. There's a larger group of 10 priests, so you have 5 burns on the arm, 5 burns on the head. Nice shaved head like yours, like this, it's like they take these vows very seriously, right? And so the question was, well, where does like intoxication come? It seems to be important, right? Of course, ancient Indian tradition, it's have a little different idea of this type of thing, but in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, intoxication is listed as a break of tapasya, right? Because it breaks your austerity and self-control. Right, that's because what is it? Intoxication means you're no longer full control of your consciousness. Something else is doing something to your consciousness. You could be could be simple. Your life falls apart and you lose control of your life. That happens in like drunkenness and drug use like that. But even in other type of things where something else is doing something to your consciousness, you're not doing something to your consciousness. Something else to take over. So that's a type of lack of self-control. It may or may not have spiritual value. I have very little to no experience of these things, so I can't speak to its spiritual value. But it's a break of tapasya for sure, right? That's the thing as far as tapasya goes. And therefore, Sukadev in the Bhagavatam says people who are very serious about spiritual life should be very careful about it, right? Is it not to break this principle of dharma, right? Not to break tapasya through intoxication, you know. It says those who are leaders in society and therefore are supposed to be examples, and those who are very serious about spiritualization should be careful about these things specifically. Anyways, we'll end my long roundabout way of talking about yamas and niyamas. Is there any questions or discussions or comments or challenges or
Well,
total tangent?
They must have talked about intoxicants somewhere, because in Tantra, Attended Tantra,
Yeah.
they specifically say to take.
Yeah, well, because it's meant.
alcohol.
Yeah. Well, it can't say specifically because that has layers, right? So
Yeah.
some people will take that as a purely symbolic
Oh,
statement,
sure.
right?
Oh, sure.
Those who take it as a not symbolic, a certain category of aspirant, right? Pashu adhikari, like that, certain
But
aspirant,
it is mentioned.
right? But it's mentioned because it's frowned down in society. Right, because it's a consciously breaking. Because some of these type of things there are like there's not a talk on that school of tantra, right? But this is it's also mental conditioning, and in one sense you have to go beyond mental conditioning, right? And the highest realization, the highest samadhi, then you transcend mental conditioning. But sometimes we can get attached to yamas and niyamas, right? We get attached to our morality, our religious morality. Right, and pretty soon, I mean, you can get so much where you can write these things on a placard and walk behind people in parades and microphones and screaming. Well, which versions in their religion of the yamas niyamas you're breaking, you know? So that's also a break of ahimsa. The break, you know, there you can see there's a so there's a danger of getting trapped. It's not that yamas niyamas, they're limbs, they're the foundational limbs. They're not the final goal. And people who are so attached to them and don't let go of the foundation, and they never build the rest of the building, right? So sometimes dramatic means are employed by certain gurus to shake somebody, right? Like Sri Ramakrishna during his tantric sadhana, he's a caste Brahmin, right, from a very strict family, right, in a very orthodox village at a time when orthodox meant something. Right, so we're not against that actually because of that. That's the holiness of in his family led to Sri Ramakrishna, right? That's the way ancient knowledge was passed down in those holy observant families, right? From our perspective, even though a lot of it we'd be on the outside of that, but that's okay. That came, right? But at a certain level, because he was meant for the highest types of realizations possible, he had to go beyond. It was also mental conditioning. Our problem is not we're not too attached to cleanliness, austerity, honesty, and celibacy. That's not the American problem, right? So better we try to practice honesty, celibacy, cleanliness, austerity, and sobriety, right? But to Sri Ramakrishna, these are, and to a Brahmin of his example, maybe not him directly because we consider him a different type of person, but as an example, it could be you can get trapped and like, oh, I'm a Brahmin. I fought for 100. I had people say, 1,000 generations, nobody's drunk one drop of alcohol in my family. Yeah. Right? That's a very big thing. It's like, you know, and it's something to be proud of. Wow, that's an impressive family. But like all these people, I can see the alcohol in your veins, you know, like, you know, that's not a good thing. Right? You can see that you can get trapped in that also. And it's good. I mean, you have a pure line and a good family and a good behavior. But also you can be also a jerk. Right, and a sober jerk. There's very loving, wonderful, holy drunks. Right, we bow to those people also. Yeah, no, it's like so you can get trapped, and so sometimes there's certain practices that are designed to break that conditioning. So, an example, part of the sadhana in Sri Ramakrishna's tantric sadhana, it's mentioned in the Lila Prashang that you're supposed to eat fish. Right, and for a lot of traditional Brahmins, they've never, like 1,000 generations, we've never eaten non-vegetarian food, right? And therefore, having a piece of fish is a huge, in a ritualized setting, is a huge thing. It shocks us. It would be, you'd have to overcome so much repulsion and shame of your family. What if they found out? It's like there's a lot big into that. This is not, I'm not telling you, but Sri Ramakrishna is Bengali, and Bengali Brahmins eat fish, right? So it's no big deal. It has no ritual power, right? So anybody knows how what his guru did? She cooked it in a human skull. That did it. She cooked it in a human skull, right? So that was harder to deal with, because that is considered, the fish was not considered impure in his family. He grew up with it, right? He's a villager in Bengal, right? But he still had to overcome the idea of purity and impurity, and a human body and remains, or he's considered unclean, right? To the Brahmin, But there's other people, there's caste that deal with bones. Right, so that's no big deal. They're like, you want? Yeah, I'll get you one. They chop one and bring it to you. That's no big deal. But so that's a different idea. So, but our problem is not attachment to yamas and niyamas, right? Yamas and niyamas are a way out of our we're attached to. I mean, not to be judgmental, but this is my own thing. We don't have. We need to refine our taste, refine our behavior, refine our yogic attention, right? Therefore, to purify our mind, purify our sentiments, purify. To purify mana shuddhi. When the mind's pure, devotion naturally springs. When devotion naturally springs, God is easily attained, self-evident, that the scriptures say, right? So there may be, certain. We have there's a friend, Haridas. He was from Rishikesh, and they have we used to kind of joke. It's like, it's like, careful, don't show any cities, you'll get stuck. Right, that was like our joke. Like, none of us have a single city. We're like, we're warned. That if you show any cities, you get stuck there. Right, so Ramakrishna described like that. It's like, but we're like, if you start meditating, you show any cities, don't show, you get stuck there. Like this is not our problem. Is not we have too many magical cities. My ability to walk through, to become really really small is holding me back, and really really big is holding. That's not a thing right now. It may be one of these days. That's not our thing right now. Our problem is like dishonesty, anger, and violence, and not seeing people purely. These not losing self-control, becoming attached. These are our problems. We have to be a little humble about our position, right? But the scriptures say that because there's still a point. Those stories of Sri Ramakrishna eating the fish out of a human skull, perhaps, right? If it's true or not, that's what the one book says. And those type of things we read in Tantra Shastra, it's still the idea that we shouldn't get caught on these also, because these aren't the goal. These are the foundational things. The goal. This is not even. Then the next step is just sit properly. We haven't even got to that, right? Or then control the breath and withdraw the mind, right? And focus on the object of the mantra or the ishta or the object of meditation, and then have so much concentration that the distinction between the object of concentration and the concentrator, the object of meditation and meditation disappear in the unitive experience of samadhi, right? That's another thing altogether, right? So it's not everything, but it's not unimportant, and it's the path. These are the foundations of the spiritual path, universally applied, right? And it's also the symptoms of somebody on the path, right? This is our list of what we should try to do. But also we see there's a new religious teacher out. So, I mean, are they nonviolent? Are they kind? Are they honest? Are they pure? Right? Are they self-controlled? Are they greedy? Do they have more than they need? Do they want more than they need? It's like you can also, it's a list, because if not, then they haven't done the foundational things yet, right? They may have their own website and thousands of adoring disciples, but the foundation hasn't been built, right? They're charismatic. That's good, right? That's a good quality also. I mean, that we need that too to attract people, But so it's not only our path, but it's also the symptoms of the path, And so Swami Chidananda, he says, what's a test of how we're making progress? So, are we becoming less violent? Are we becoming more honest? Are we becoming more kind? Are we becoming more self-disciplined? Are we understanding deeper and deeper levels of the scriptures and therefore of our own inner self? Are we surrendering more? This is a good checklist. Right, so we see. So it's like, I can sit for hours now, right? But we're still a jerk, you know. You know, like that's the problem, right? Right, and there's nothing worse than a yogic jerk, right? We call this. So this is called. So there's a great one of our great sadhu friends. You can if we can call him a friend. He's a senior sadhu named Shankaracharya. He's a tantric sadhaka, and he says, "Don't be a yogi demon." He told me, right? Don't be a yogi demon. He says, yogi demon. He says, oh yes, the yogis and the demons do the exact same sadhana. What's the difference? They're also doing tapasya. They're doing meditation, they're sitting, the whole thing. They do the exact same thing, right? And but one's becomes a saint, one becomes a demon. One's a demon, right? So sadhana is the same. It's the intentions different, right? You know, so that says don't be.
Is the demons don't want to die.
Yeah. They always they want eternality in the body, but so don't be. So the sadhana is the same. So, but the yamas niyamas aren't the same, right? The demons aren't following yamas and niyamas. Maybe temporarily, or I'll be. You know, people do, or in order to, I have to please the goddess. So on Tuesdays, during the Navaratri, I shall be a strict vegetarian and not drink alcohol and follow brahmacharya, so I can get a boon of the Devi during my mantras. Right? And it's true. I mean, it's actually good. People during Navaratri, people are vegetarian. They don't drink alcohol. Brahmacharya, right? But it's just for that period of time. It's not. Anyways, it has every sadhana has its own rules. Right, but these are universally Patanjali and the yogis. See, Patanjali gives this list. I'm going to read quickly another list in the Yoga Sutra in the Sharda Tilaka Tantra and in the Devi Gita, another list, right, which I think is a more full list. We could talk on another for future day. Yamas are ahimsa, satya, asteya. These are the same. Brahmacharya, then daya, compassion, Arjava means humility, kshama, patience, dhritti, steadfastness, mitahara. Mitahara means control of your eating, right? Meaning control. Mitahara means controlled eating, moderation eating, and saucha, purity. And then the niyamas is tapas, austerity, santosha, contentment. Ashtika means faith. Means faith in the Vedas and the scriptures and the tradition, right? Dana, charity. Devasya pujana, the worship of the deity, worshiping the gods or worshiping God, right? Siddhanta Shravana, listening to the Siddhanta, the conclusion to the scriptures. This is what we're trying to do. We're giving Siddhanta, we're teaching the Siddhanta, listening to the truth, the scriptural truth, right? Hri means shame or modesty is probably a better word. Mati, deep understanding, japa, repetition of mantra, and huta means fire sacrifice. Right. This is a larger list. So you can see that as a tantric, they're expanding to other details of sadhana, of puja and homa and japa and like that. But so this is also a very nice list, right? A very nice list. I mean, all the Hare Krishnas have the 4 regular principles, also a very nice list, or the 5 precepts, or the 10 precepts of Buddhism, also a very nice list, right? Whatever the tradition, but there has to be some core. And it shouldn't be as an external, like, oh, the script. Why should we be truthful? Because the scripture says no. Because it's we want the truth. Why should we follow? Why should we be non-violent? Not because the scripture says so, right? The scripture says so because it's good for us. It's the nature of the self. This leads to realization, not because the scripture says so. Like I had in one of my interreligious meetings, I was talking to Rabbi and Imam, discussing our food restrictions. Right, and he said, and the whole discussion was like, but the scripture says that it has to be something without hooves or with hooves, cloven hooves or not cloven hooves, and all this type of stuff. And listening to it, I was saying, it's like, it's good. I mean, each religion, Hinduism also has their certain clean meats or not clean meats if you're vegetarian or not vegetarian like that, or it could just be because nonviolence is a higher principle, right? It's nonviolence not because what type of foot something has. Or cows are not cows because they're holy, not pig because they're dirty, but fish are okay. You know, it's like we can do like the scripture says that. You can say, oh, it's okay because the scripture says so, or we shouldn't do because the scripture says not to do it. But there's the yamas, niyamas. These are eternal principles behind all that. The real reason is because nonviolence is the supreme religion. Truthfulness is the truth. Right, brahmacharya is purity. Also we want to be pure. We want, and only when the soul's pure can we realize the pure, simple one. Anyways, that's my rant, my auspicious rantings for the evening. Thank you for coming into my small little warm kutir. I consider this as the inauguration of my small kutir. And Jai Ma Kali, Jai Ma Kali. Let's go do Arati and Kirtan. Well, I expected 4 or 5 people today. That's why I thought we'll do it inside. It'd be nice. This is still nice though. We can still. There's 3 more people can sit here. No problem. Bholanath Mahadev. Are we off the camera thing? You